Hello everybody, SB Simulator here, and welcome to a different kind of iRacing video where I was originally supposed to record these videos in VR, but however, VR and Streamlabs didn't seem to mix well together. So instead, I thought I'd provide a commentary of these two races that took place on iRacing. They're both wet weather races, so you can imagine all the entertainment you can get out of wet weather races. So we kick off now at Algarve, which was one wet weather race. It was lightly wet. It wasn't too wet or anything like that. But as you can see here, I mean, it was a little bit chaotic. It wasn't too chaotic, but it was chaotic enough for me to gain some places at the start of the race. And on this first lap here, it was an absolute stormer for me, where I managed to gain 2 places on the first lap. Where first one was on the Mustang, second one here is on this Corvette that we managed to dive down the inside because he was on the dry line and I was on the rougher part of the track that had the most grip in the wet weather. For more information on this kind of driving technique, I recommend checking out Danny Lee's video on how to be fast in the wet. It's a really nice comprehensive guide that he has made on YouTube, and it shows that how staying off the dry line in a wet weather race is actually more faster in wet than it is to be on the dry line. As this lap progresses, I found myself catching up to the back of the field by simply staying off the dry line as we witness another Mustang there spinning off just at this left-hander. And as you can see, I was really in front of this Audi now, where he opted to stay on the outside line like how the Mustang did, whereas the other car there, I think it might have been a Porsche or Ferrari, opted to stay on the dry line, which was a bit of a bad move in the wet in my opinion. But I managed to go around the outside of the Audi there, and he was on the dry line, I was on the wet line, so I was able to make the move stick and get up another place. So that's me up to P12 at the end of the lap, with now me up into P11 after passing the Mustang. Fast forward then a few laps later, and we're on to lap 3. We're on to lap 3 now, and I found myself really pulling off this move where it got me huge amounts of time here. I break off the dry line, brake hard on the rough part of the track, go intentionally just a little bit wide for me to go back onto the dry line. And before you know it, I managed to gain a couple of tenths on the other car in front of me because, again, I was off the racing line in the wet. Going on to lap 4 one lap later, and the same Audi that I'd passed before decides he wants to have a go at me again. So I managed to stay ahead of him, even though he did try to overtake me on the final corner. And then from there, it was a race for P10 in Algarve, and it was actually quite a good battle we had here at Algarve. Again, staying off the dry line, managed to brake, but I nearly lost the back end of the car, which caused the Audi here to get up the inside of me. He had the place there temporarily, but I was able to get him back here at the next few corners. Same thing again. He stays on the dry line while I chose to keep on the rougher part of the track for the best grip in the wet. Then he makes this mistake of staying on the dry line. He struggles, and I managed to make a huge dive down the inside, where it was side by side racing up the hill. He was on the dry line. Then we swapped for me. Then I was on the dry line, and then from here, that's when I ignored my own advice and lost the grip on the dry line. Went out wide slightly. The Audi then manages to get back up the inside, and then from there it was a side to side battle there, side by side battle for P10 going up to the top of the hill. He gets ahead of me, and he was now off the dry line, while I was on the dry line. And that's how he was able to get ahead of me at the top of the hill. But I didn't give up. I still continued to try and stay on him. Then there he was trying to learn from my driving. There he was now trying to stay off the dry line, and I continued to follow him as well. He decided to go even more wider, and it was a good battle here for the next lap or two. That is until I lost the back end of this Corvette and I spun off there completely. So I lost out on P10. But luckily for me, I did not give up, because a few laps later, going on to lap 11, this was just with 2 laps to go. Few other cars there spun off ahead of me, and I managed to get myself up into P9, along with a battle with this Ferrari. He has the inside line, but however, I was able to brake much later than him. I was more brave on the brakes than he was, and I was able to stay ahead of him for P9. So from there, for the next 2 laps, myself and the Ferrari were battling head to head with each other for this last spot. Well, for the second last spot in the top 10. Again, I choose to stay off the dry line. He goes onto the dry line, coming up towards the top of the hill. And then from there, it was a 2-lap battle for P9 here at Algarve in the Fanatec GT3 League. And I forgot to mention as well, this is the last race of week 12. Before then, we go on to week 13, where there's some new exciting updates for Iracing. One of them being that the TCRs will get some wet tires. That means then the Nürburgring Endurance Championship and the Nürburgring 24 Hours as well will have rain enabled. But back to this battle here, the Ferrari goes onto the wet line, whereas I stay on the dry line there just to give him some room. But somehow I was able to stay well further ahead of him there. Probably because I was more braver on the throttle. But we come around now the final corner here now, and actually this is the last lap of the race, and I cross the line and I take a respectable P9. So at the end of that race, I found out that I was in the third split, the second slowest split in the Fanatec GT3 series at the time. And I lost a bit of safety rating, but I managed to gain 3 I ratings, so that put me up to 1602 I rating at the time. But now we will go on to this next wet weather race here at the Virginia circuit in the Rainmaster series, where we race in the Ferrari 296. So you join me now here at the Virginia circuit for the last race of the Rainmaster series on iRacing. And like the Fanatec GT3 Championship, this is the last race of week 12 before we go on to week 13 in the series. And we kick off into turn 1, where I managed to keep well close to this Ferrari ahead of me. I again used the same technique of braking beyond the race, off the racing line, just so I can have some grip. But as you see there, the Ferrari ignored that advice and broke on the racing line, where he nearly lost the back end because of that. And I make the silly mistake here by following him into the puddles, which is something that you want to avoid doing when driving in the wet. Obviously, that's because that's when the car loses a lot of grip when you try to go through the puddles like that. So the plan was to essentially stay with him as much as I can throughout this first lap, because with the amount of spray being thrown at me there, I knew it was going to be quite a big challenge to overtake him. But that overtake did come in the end at the beginning of lap 2, where he outbrakes himself, goes wide, and that's when I was able to make the move stick and get myself into P4 for that race. But then I managed to gain myself another position when this red Lightning McQueen Ferrari goes wide of the NASCAR bend, and I was able to get ahead of him there for P3 at the time. But later did I realize that I was actually in P2 by the end of this lap, which I was fairly over the moon by when I crossed the line to find out that I was actually in P2, not P3. So even though I don't remember overtaking P2, I was still happy that I was one place away from possibly getting the win, or maybe even a podium if I keep going the way I am. Sadly though, this is when my lack of concentration got the better of me as I outbraked myself, and that's when I spun, and because of my incompetence there, I lost 3 places because of that, and that's putting me down to P5 because of that. So It was a matter now of trying to go on a recovery drive to try and recover as much of the damage as I possibly can. So throughout these next few laps, it was really now a matter of just keeping it together and don't throw away any more positions like I have previously, because Virginia was a very difficult track to go wet racing on. I mean, it's a difficult track in general, but it's also really difficult in the wet, and it's one of my least favorite circuits on the calendar, despite getting some really good results here last time out in the RTA series with the Ford Mustangs. So I was still using the same techniques I was before, just braking and driving off the racing line, so that way I had the most grip possible. But up here, as we fast forward a few laps later, I saw another Ferrari there spinning off here at, I believe it's called Roller Coaster. So luckily I was able to gain a few places back, and that's putting me up into P4 for that. So I did manage to recover some of the damage that was already done, pick up some of the pieces there, and that is until I spun off there again, as you saw. So now I lost P4. So now I lost P4 again, and now I was back on this recovery drive. But I didn't give up whatsoever. I still managed to continue trying to be on this recovery drive to get back into contention for this Rainmaster event. And essentially now it was just try and keep the car on the road once again, and just continue breaking off the racing line and cornering off the racing line, so I had the most grip. So as you can see, we were very close behind this Sky TV Ferrari, and I was in P5 at the time. He was in P4, and I thought maybe I had a lot more pace than he did. So I thought maybe I could use that to my advantage to catch up to him. But luckily, I didn't need to do that in the end, because that's when he outbraked himself and hit the tire barriers really hard there. So that's gifted me P4 there, and it was at this point here was when everybody started falling off the track. A lot of people there were starting to become a little bit fatigued with wet weather racing. So it was a matter now of just not push too hard, just keep the car on the road, just avoid driving on the dry line when driving in the wet. But fortunately though, I mean I was able to get up to P4, and I had another Ferrari there battling me for P4. It was a good battle. That's until he makes a silly mistake of trying to go up the inside, in which he lost the front end, and then that's when he spun off. And he decided to show his frustration by saying F you to me, when that was his own fault entirely for trying to go up the inside and try and take P4 in a corner where he damn well knew it would not be safe to be overtaking in the wet, of course. But after all that chaos and all that carnage, and after all the efforts to keep the car on the road in the wet, I kept it together, and I brought it home in a respectable P4, which I was really happy with in the end, to be getting P4 and being the only split in the Rainmaster series. So as you can see here, I gained 53 Iracing, but I lost a little bit of safety rating. That has set me up nicely for week 13, where I go into it with 1,655 Iracing, and what's even better is that I am just over 300 Iracing away from being in the 2K Iracing range. So that'd be something to look forward to. In the meantime, though, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm sorry it's a different style compared to what you're normally used to seeing, but I hope you enjoy it nonetheless. So thank you for watching, and goodbye.